Baku exposed Ferrari's collapse and Hamilton's growing frustration. Inside Maranello's simulator, Hamilton uncovered flaws that sabotaged the entire season. His discoveries include radical setups for Singapore, unseen by Ferrari's engineers. If they work, Hamilton could rewrite the story of Ferrari and Formula One itself. Lewis Hamilton's weekend in Baku exposed Ferrari's contradiction. On Friday, the SF25 looked quick enough for pole. By Saturday, Hamilton was eliminated in Q2, and by Sunday, he was wrestling to finish 8th. That collapse revealed not a driver problem, but a systemic one. Hamilton sensed it instantly, and his investigation confirmed it. The simulator in Maranello, Ferrari's multi-million crown jewel, was not guiding them. It was deceiving them. The flaw was not at the circuit. It was in the very foundation of Ferrari's preparation. Instead of abandoning the tool, Hamilton used its lies as a guide. He recognized patterns in its falsehoods, logging every contradiction between simulation and reality. Where it promised tire longevity, he prepared for early degradation. Where it suggested balance, he anticipated instability. By inverting its logic, he turned Ferrari's biggest weakness into his own compass. This was not the work of engineers. It was the intuition of a 7-time champion refusing to be defeated by numbers. From that process came a radical package designed specifically for Singapore. Hamilton shifted focus from raw speed to predictability, from top speed to stability. Suspension geometries were rebalanced to handle Marina Bay's curbs, while cooling strategies were adapted to fight humidity. Tire management became the priority, knowing the circuit demands consistency over 60 laps. Ferrari's simulator never produced these setups. Hamilton built them himself through long nights of trial, error, and instinct. His discoveries have given Ferrari a chance where none should exist. The scandal is not only that Ferrari's simulator is flawed, it is that Hamilton had to expose it. Engineers, blinded by faith in technology, ignored the warning signs. Hamilton, through sheer persistence, forced the truth into the open. The simulator that should have been Ferrari's savior has become their embarrassment, its prestige shredded by the man they hired to rescue them. Now the team must face the fact that their star driver outperformed their systems and that he did it alone. Singapore is now the crucible. If Hamilton's setups work, Ferrari will taste redemption and humiliation in the same breath. Success will prove that instinct and human experience can outthink machines, and that Ferrari's leadership surrendered too early when they froze development. Failure, however, will expose Hamilton to the same despair that has defined Ferrari for years, proving that even his brilliance cannot salvage a broken team. The outcome will shape not only the season but the perception of Ferrari's entire future. Baku was meant to be Ferrari's revival. For the first time this season, Lewis Hamilton felt pole position was within reach, topping free practice sessions with a car that seemed transformed. His tone was sharper, his body language alive. He believed a breakthrough had arrived. Yet within 24 hours, that optimism collapsed. Q2 elimination, 12th on the grid, and the raw sense of opportunity squandered. It was not simply disappointment, it was betrayal. Ferrari had dangled the prospect of competitiveness, only to strip it away when it mattered most. By Sunday evening, the damage was complete. Hamilton wrestled the SF25 to 8th place, but it was a hollow recovery. The car that had teased speed on Friday became erratic under race conditions, losing balance through slow corners, overheating tires far earlier than expected. For a driver who has built his career on precision and consistency, this inconsistency was intolerable. Hamilton's words cut through the post-race haze. Execution needed to be better. It was not a critique of one mistake. It was an indictment of the system itself. Behind closed doors, engineers searched for answers. Data streams poured in, yet none explained the gulf between simulator forecasts and track reality. Ferrari's prized simulator, a multi-million investment designed to eliminate uncertainty, had painted a glowing picture of competitiveness in Baku. In practice, it delivered a car unable to live up to the promise. The disconnect was too large to be ignored. For Hamilton, a driver who has lived the sport's evolution from mechanical feel to digital dependency, the suspicion was immediate. The problem was not his driving or even the car itself. It was the virtual world Ferrari trusted. Hamilton's investigation inside Maranello's simulator confirmed those suspicions. He found that the mathematical model, the very backbone of Ferrari's digital predictions, was riddled with flaws. Suspension behaviors, tire degradation curves, aerodynamic loads, all simulated with apparent accuracy, all diverging wildly from reality. Engineers had relied on this system all season, blindly following outputs that misled rather than guided. It was not just an error, it was a betrayal of Ferrari's very philosophy of engineering dominance. Hamilton had unearthed a scandal at the heart of the Scuderia. What makes this revelation explosive is how Hamilton responded. He did not reject the simulator as useless, nor did he blame his team in public. Instead, he began using its flaws as signposts. He spent marathon 12-hour sessions analyzing where the simulator lied, mapping its inconsistencies, and inverting its outputs to design real-world solutions. It was a masterstroke of adaptation, taking a broken tool and bending it into a weapon. Ferrari's engineers had been trapped in the numbers. Hamilton broke free by turning those numbers against themselves. And now all eyes turned to Singapore. Marina Bay is a circuit that magnifies weaknesses, punishes instability, and exposes the unprepared. For Ferrari, it is the most dangerous arena imaginable. But Hamilton arrives armed not with trust in the simulator, but with radical setups born from its flaws. If they work, Ferrari could find redemption. If they fail, the humiliation will be total. Either way, under the lights of Singapore, the world will see whether instinct can outthink machines. This is only the beginning. Hamilton's own words in Baku set the tone. I felt like I could fight for pole today. For a man who has driven championship-winning cars and endured Ferrari's inconsistency this year, that statement was heavy with meaning. It was not hype, it was conviction. Yet by Saturday night, he was eliminated in Q2, starting 12th on the grid. That swing from optimism to frustration captured Ferrari's season in miniature, flashes of brilliance undone by systemic flaws. Fans saw it, rivals sensed it, and Hamilton made sure Ferrari heard it. This was no ordinary missed opportunity. It was proof of a deeper dysfunction. On race day, Hamilton clawed his way to 8th. It was a recovery drive full of determination but devoid of satisfaction. The SF-25 betrayed him again with balance issues, sliding unpredictably through slower corners and chewing through tires faster than predicted. Ferrari's simulator had promised a car capable of extending stints, managing degradation better than rivals. Reality told the opposite story. By lap 20, Hamilton was defending rather than attacking, protecting tires that should have lasted longer. The disconnect was glaring. Ferrari's million-euro tool was painting fantasies. The technical review after Baku stripped away any illusions. Suspension modeling was exposed as miscalibrated, giving engineers false confidence in setups that destabilized the car on track. Tire degradation curves, supposedly a Ferrari stronghold, were consistently wrong, predicting life that never existed. Engineers had built their weekend around false promises. Hamilton, however, had lived the truth, a car that looked competitive in theory but fell apart when pushed under race conditions. This was not one mistake, not a bad call on Saturday night. It was a structural flaw embedded in Ferrari's very foundations. Hamilton's reaction was as blunt as it was measured. He refused to let the conversation drift toward excuses. Execution needed to be better, he said, shifting the blame from the cockpit to the system behind him. He has spent too long at the top to mistake his own errors for organizational collapse. At 39 years old, with 2 decades of experience, Hamilton knows when the problem is not the driver. His words stung because they were true. Ferrari had not just failed him, they had misled him with data they trusted more than his instincts. The broader Formula One community reacted with brutal clarity. Jacques Villeneuve declared, "Ferrari is completely lost. Hamilton played it well." The comment cut deep, but matched what the numbers revealed. Ferrari had been chasing shadows, using simulator outputs as gospel, while their rivals refined real-world performance. For a team once defined by engineering dominance, this was humiliation. The Scuderia's most advanced tool was producing illusions, and it took Hamilton's honesty to expose them. For fans, the scandal was irresistible. Ferrari's crisis was not just on track, it was in the factory. And this is where Hamilton's discovery transforms the narrative. By uncovering the flaws in Ferrari's simulator, he has shifted the spotlight from driver errors to systemic failure. His 8th place in Baku was not proof of decline, but evidence of resilience in the face of betrayal by his own tools. For Ferrari, the data was worthless. For Hamilton, it became the foundation of his rebellion. He would not accept the lies of the simulator. He would invert them, reinterpret them, and turn them into weapons for Singapore. This was no longer a story of failure. It was the beginning of a counterattack. At the heart of Ferrari's crisis is the multi-body mathematical model that powers their simulator. This system is meant to predict how the SF25 behaves under every condition: braking, cornering, tire wear, aerodynamic load. But Hamilton uncovered that the equations were fundamentally inconsistent. The simulator painted a car with front-end grip that never appeared, tire life that disintegrated after a handful of laps, and stability that collapsed as soon as fuel loads dropped. Engineers had trusted this phantom version of the Ferrari, designing setups that looked flawless in simulation but fell apart the moment rubber hit tarmac. It was not bad luck. It was bad science. Hamilton's genius was in his reaction. He did not treat the simulator as useless. Instead, he used it as a mirror for its own lies. If the model predicted strong traction, he expected weakness. If it promised stable balance, he prepared for instability. By inverting its logic, he began to map its blind spots. This required intuition honed over 20 years at the sharp end of Formula One. Where others saw confusion, Hamilton saw a pattern. Every false prediction became a clue. Every failed output a breadcrumb leading to the truth. He turned Ferrari's most expensive mistake into his own personal compass. The sessions themselves became legendary inside Maranello. Hamilton spent 12-hour stretches running scenario after scenario, pushing the simulator to its limits. He studied suspension loads at different ride heights, simulated tire degradation curves under tropical humidity, and mapped braking stability for high downforce corners. Each time the simulator produced impossible outcomes, Hamilton logged the discrepancy and noted where reality would diverge. Over weeks, he built a mental library of Ferrari's flaws, effectively creating a translation manual between the digital car and the real one. Engineers followed numbers. Hamilton followed instincts backed by scars earned across 2 decades of racing. His focus was Marina Bay. Singapore is not a track where small errors can be masked by straight-line speed. It demands stability through 19 corners, consistency across 300 kilometers, and cooling solutions for a chassis suffocated by heat and humidity. Hamilton zeroed in on suspension stiffness for curbs, aerodynamic compromises that traded top speed for corner balance, and tire cooling strategies that would keep degradation under control. These were not the setups Ferrari's simulator suggested. They were the setups Hamilton built by reverse engineering its lies. For the first time all season, Ferrari had a car prepared not by machines, but by instinct. Ferrari's engineers, at first skeptical, began to recognize the brilliance. The setups looked illogical on paper, even inefficient. Yet when run through limited track tests, they showed promise. Balance improved, tire wear became more manageable, and the car felt less unpredictable. It was not a miracle, it was method. By ignoring the false gospel of their simulator, Hamilton had given Ferrari something real to work with. His approach prioritized driver feel over algorithmic projections, a philosophy that Ferrari had abandoned in its obsession with numbers. The irony was bitter. Their salvation came not from their tools, but from the man they doubted. And so, the scandal deepened. Ferrari's million-euro simulator, once their technological crown jewel, had been exposed as unreliable, its prestige shredded by Hamilton's ingenuity. The 7-time champion had turned its very flaws into his weapon. Heading into Singapore, Ferrari does not trust its own data, they trust Hamilton's interpretations. If his radical setups succeed, it will humiliate Ferrari's leadership while proving that human instinct can still outthink machines. If they fail, it will confirm the Scuderia's decline is too deep for even Hamilton to rescue. Either way, Marina Bay will be the stage where instinct collides with technology and Ferrari's future is laid bare. The twist in Ferrari's story is brutal. The Scuderia has already halted meaningful development of the SF25. Resources have been shifted toward the 2026 project, leaving Hamilton with no new parts, no fresh updates, and no cavalry coming to the rescue. For most drivers, this would mark the end of hope. But Hamilton has turned that abandonment into a personal challenge. If Ferrari cannot give him solutions, he will create them himself. That decision transforms his Singapore package from experiment into necessity. Is no longer an option, is Ferrari's only shot left. The risk could not be greater. Marina Bay is one of the most punishing circuits in Formula One. 19 corners, humidity that drains both man and machine, and a race distance that stretches to nearly 2 hours in suffocating heat. If Hamilton's radical setups fail here, the humiliation will be total. Ferrari will stand exposed as a team reliant on a flawed simulator and a driver forced to overcompensate. For Hamilton personally, it would mean another chapter of frustration, proving that even his genius cannot outthink systemic collapse. The stakes have rarely been higher. His Singapore package itself is a departure from Ferrari tradition. Instead of chasing outright speed, Hamilton has prioritized stability and predictability. Suspension settings have been softened to absorb curbs and keep the car planted, while cooling strategies have been tailored to prevent the thermal runaway that plagued Ferrari earlier in the season. He has sacrificed marginal top speed for corner balance, recognizing that in Singapore, consistency wins over raw horsepower. It is a philosophy Ferrari's engineers resisted, but one Hamilton insisted upon. He is betting that 39 years of experience and 2 wins at Marina Bay give him more authority than any simulator. The contrast between Hamilton's philosophy and Ferrari's approach is striking. Officially, the team is conservative, even defeatist, admitting that 2025 is a transitional year. Hamilton rejects that logic entirely. His setups are a declaration that the season is not dead, that pride can still be salvaged even without development. If he succeeds, it will expose Ferrari's leadership as having surrendered too early while their own driver fought on. If he fails, Ferrari will argue that they were right to shift focus to the future. Either way, Singapore will become a political battleground as much as a sporting contest. For Hamilton himself, the symbolism cannot be overstated. Singapore has always been one of his proving grounds, a circuit that tests stamina, precision, and resilience. To conquer it now, in a Ferrari many believe is uncompetitive, would mean redefining his debut season with the Scuderia. It would prove that he is not merely enduring Ferrari's dysfunction, but actively fighting against it. It would also send a message across the paddock that Hamilton is still capable of dragging a team forward by sheer force of will, even when the machinery betrays him. Few victories could carry such symbolic weight, and that is why the dramatic twist matters. Ferrari's decision to freeze development has turned Singapore into an existential trial. Hamilton is no longer racing just for points. He is racing to prove that instinct can outthink flawed machines, that a driver's willpower can still bend the destiny of a team. If his radical setups work, Ferrari will be shamed into admitting their mistakes while celebrating a podium they never saw coming. If they fail, it will confirm what many fear, that Ferrari is beyond saving, even with a 7-time champion at the wheel. Marina Bay will decide which truth survives.